so we will begin. First, I would like to ask Brian Nevins to come forth and give the invocation.
That one, thank you. Would you pray with me, please? Beloved God, on this eve of the celebration of our independence, we ask that you teach us the true principles of independence and freedom, both of our country and your kingdom. Please put it into our hearts to protect and preserve the rights that our very own founding documents proclaim came from you. The same rights that so many men and women have died to protect and preserve, and for that we honor them in your presence and thank you for them. You indeed know about sacrificing your son for the sake of others. We ask that our city officials would be just as protective of our rights and take their responsibilities to the residents of this city with the gravity and wisdom they need and deserve. We pray for the agenda set before them today. Please give an assurance of what would please you and what would benefit those who live and work in and around our beloved city of Erlanger. And in these things we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
If I could take a quick opportunity to introduce our guest mayor this evening. Rebecca Trunnell is a recent graduate of Covington Latin School, and she is soon to be going to Worcester College, and she won an auction to be the mayor for the day. And so she is the mayor this evening. She'll be presiding over the meeting, and I'll be here in the background, but she'll be running it from here. Thank you so much for being here this evening. It doesn't take much.
I now call the July 3rd, 2018 regular meeting of the City Council to order. I ask that you please rise and say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll now ask Mr. Christofield to take roll call.
Mr. Burke. Mr. Cahill. Ms. Kyle. Mr. Skidmore. Ms. Sudkamp.
Here.
Ms. Cahill. Mr. Montgomery. Ms. Skidmore. Ms. Pitts.
Here.
Mr. Nicely. Ms. Fetty. Mr. Blankenship.
You received a copy of the minutes for the June 5th, 2018 regular council meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to be made at this time? Yes? Mrs. Sudkamp?
Okay, I would like to ask that the resolution be put on the agenda to join, to actually sign an interlocal agreement for SWAT.
We will add that to the agenda.
Thank you very much.
Do I have a motion that they be adopted as presented? Motion by Mr. Fedden, second by Mr. Montgomery. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. You received a copy of the agenda for the July 3rd, 2018 regular council meeting. Are there any additions to be made at this time?
Yeah, obviously being added to the agenda is the resolution that Ms. Sudkamp brought up. So with that amendment, we would need a motion.
Motion by Mrs. Pitts, second by Mrs. Sedkamp. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. We will now move on to the special presentations. First, a business spotlight from
Colonial Cottage, and Master Provisions.
For you. And I've got food, a free dinner for this. If you can answer this question. Right before the Colonial Cottage moved to the current building that it's in, it was a Dairy Queen. Before it was a Dairy Queen, what was in there? Who owned it? Very good. And the challenge that I have, I'm the third owner in these 85 years, and the challenge that I have is to remain relevant to a community. How can I keep in front of the community so they don't get tired and they don't get bored of me? Well, one of the things that I do, and if you don't know me, we do serve breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We cater a lot. The city's a good consumer of ours, and we consume a lot of their services, especially when I have a slip and fall every 3 months or something else like that. But how do I remain relevant to a community? Well, the latest idea that I've had is I met this gentleman behind me. This is Roger Babick, and he represents Master Provisions. And we have partnered together. I'm going to let him explain the program that he's got. But we have partnered together in an arrangement that I'm going to challenge other businesses in this community, once you get an opportunity to hear what he says and what he represents, to do the same thing. And it's just rounding up, give guests an opportunity to round up their checks. If it's, if their check is $10.99, well, let's do something better than that. If it's $10.25, you'll have the opportunity to round that up. That extra 75 cents, I can track this with a POS system. That's just a computer system checkout that a lot of businesses have. I can track that, and then every month I print out a report that this system generates, and it tells me how many folks wanted their tickets rounded up, and I just cut him a check every month for that amount. A lot of national companies are doing it. They're championing and pairing with big charities. Well, his organization, I think, is a huge impact, not only to Erlanger, but to the Northern Kentucky region. So at this time, I'd like to turn my time on the floor, over to Roger Babick and Master Provisions.
Thanks, Matt, and thanks, Tyson, and Tyson's fill-in, who's doing a great job. The best fried chicken in the world is in Erlanger, Kentucky. If you have not had Colonial Cottage fried chicken, you need to get there. But Matt is helping us feed hungry people along with the patrons at Colonial Cottage. Our role at Master Provisions is to serve God by connecting resources to needs with a huge vision until every physical and spiritual need is fulfilled. And although we are faith-based, we distribute food to organizations irregardless of whether they're business, secular, faith-based, what religion they are. That doesn't matter, because hunger doesn't know boundaries of race, gender, or religion. So what we do at Master Provisions in the area of food alone is rescue really high-quality food from major wholesalers and retailers. We rescue it, we pick it up by the semi-load, we bring it to Master Provisions, and then distribute it out to the community. So every day, Monday through Friday, nonprofit groups come to us to feed hungry people in our community. In Erlanger, 1 out of 5 or 6 people, depending on whose stats you look at, have times during the year where they do not have enough food for 3 meals a day. Let me repeat that. Here in Erlanger, 1 of 5 or 6 people has times during the year where they don't have enough food. So we're filling the gap in partnership with other organizations. For example, United Ministries comes and gets bread every week to distribute out to the community. Man of Mission and associated with Erlanger United Methodist Church. Not only do they do a Saturday outreach each week, on Wednesday they come and get food from Master Provisions to feed hungry people in our community. United Christian Volunteers, even though they're based in Ellesmere, serve a lot of the population of Erlanger. And Erlanger Baptist Church, during the school year, works with the schools to get food from us to get to children in our schools. One of the neat things that we've done also in terms of volunteerism is working with the public schools to bring in special needs students during their school days to learn applicable life skills such as sorting, inventorying, packaging, and preparing food to serve others, because special needs students need the ability to learn life skills. We've done that successfully in Boone County schools. We've worked with Erlanger Lloyd schools to bring in special needs students. Volunteers were heavily volunteer-driven. Over 22,000 volunteer hours last year were donated. So with a staff of 7 people, we're able to get food out to over 35,000 people every single month. And that is conservative. And right here within the 10-mile radius, we're located in the corner of Ellesmere on Foundation Drive. Within that 10-mile radius, 7,000 people get food from us and our partners every single month. That incorporates a lot of citizens of Erlanger, and we ask for your support. That's why Matt has gotten behind us, and that's just in the area of food. And the last couple things I want to say, everybody needs to know that we are good stewards of your dollars. So for every dollar that comes into us, 95% goes right back out to serve people in need. The other 5% takes care of our administrative costs, which you have to have to run a nonprofit organization successfully. And if you look at what happens with a dollar, just in the area of food. So Matt mentioned the Roundup program that we have. We call it Even Dollars for Lasting Change. In that Roundup program, every dollar turns into enough food to create one meal for a hungry person. Every dollar turns into enough food for meals for 8 people. So we encourage you to get involved. Come and take a tour of Master Provisions. Linda Dietz, who's very faithful attending the council meetings, works with us. She could give you a tour. I will give you a tour. We'll show you what we do to rescue food and to get it in the hands of people in need through partners. That's what Master Provisions is all about. And thank you for this opportunity, Substitute Mayor. You're doing a great job. Thank you.
There will now be an oath of office taken by Josiah Woodruff.
Hi, good evening. Tonight we're going to welcome a new member to our department, a full-time member. This young man standing next to me is Josiah Woodruff. Before I tell you anything about him personally, well, I guess this is personal as well. You know, he first tested with us. It's been a couple years, if not 3 years. I believe one time we didn't hire off the list. I think the next time that he took the test, we hired some paramedics. But, you know, he was always there. He never gave up. So he's been fighting for this position. So he has earned it as much as you can when it comes to trying to land a position. So I want to show my appreciation for somebody that's trying, really displayed an effort to become a part of our team. Josiah was born in Sandusky, Ohio, but he was raised in Burlington, Kentucky. He's a 2012 graduate of Cooper High School, during which time he interned at the Burlington Fire Protection District. He was a volunteer firefighter for 6 years with them until just recently, within the last couple months, 6 months, I guess, joined our part-time rotational program staffing. He's currently attending Gateway College, where he will graduate this fall with his paramedic certification. Tonight with him, his parents, Bill and Mona, are here. His younger sister, Alex, is here. His older brother, is it Corey, was working, could not be here. His girlfriend, Caitlin, will be holding the Bible tonight. He has some hobbies. He likes MMA and boxing fan. He was kind of leery to tell me that. I don't know why. There's nothing wrong with that. So that's about the only sports that he likes to watch. I guess we will do the oath, and then I will pin him. Does that sound good, sir? I should be talking to the mayor. Never mind. Go ahead. Okay, when you come up. I think.
Nice to meet you. Okay. It's right hand. So I always get that mixed up. Left hand, right hand here. Yeah. All right. I'll go ahead and read it, and then you can just say I do at the end. I, Josiah Woodruff, do solemnly swear to do my duty as a firefighter EMT for the city of Erlanger to the best of my ability, to serve my commanding officers with respect and dignity, to serve the citizens of the city of Erlanger with compassion, courage, and integrity, and to uphold the laws and constitutions of the United States of America, the Commonwealth of Kentucky, and the city of Erlanger, so help me God. Congratulations.
I forgot to mention, his grandfather is also with us tonight. That's Thomas Garvin. He is a veteran of World War II, I was told. So that in itself is something to be proud of.
We will now move on to public comments. Would Mr. Hahn please bring forward the list? Len Smelter?
Good evening, folks. I gave everybody in the council my speech, so I don't really have to rattle off all of it. I'm not much of a speaker anyway. But my main goal here is to talk about a ordinance that you have regarding leash law in this city. And I hope everyone in the council had a chance to read my notes. Did you? Good. So we'll kind of skip over that. And the main thing is we're asking for a amendment to the ordinance, as I've got handwritten in there, to say accept registered support animals. And I'm the first one not to deny I'm guilty of the dog walking without a leash sometimes. And it's my daughter's dog, and she's disabled. And you've seen the attachments there. We have a letter from the doctor. She is a registered dog. She's 7 years old. She has never bitten or attacked anybody. She's a very laid-back Basset Beagle Hound. She lays in her front yard, and people walk by on the sidewalk with their dogs, and she just looks at the dog and smiles at it. So she's very good dog, and I've never had any complaints about her. And so I'm asking that we could revise that ordinance with 4 little words there, except registered support animals, so our daughter can walk without being hassled by one particular neighbor. Anybody have any questions? I want to thank all you folks here. This is an excellent city we live in, and we've been at this residence for 13 years and have never had a problem with dog. We had a dog before that too. Never have had a complaint about our dog. And as I say, she's very laid back and very good. I appreciate you considering my suggestion here. As I say, I am guilty of allowing her, because I'm her legal guardian, allowing her to walk the dog, but she always carries the leash with her, just in case. Okay, any questions? Thank you very much for your time. And again,
Thank you.
Thank you. Bill Sullivan?
Madam Mayor, Mr. Mayor, City Council, I appreciate this opportunity to come before you today. I'm coming today, I live on Hartwood Lane, 4052 Hartwood, there at the corner of Circlewood. Have lived there for 19 years now, going on 20 next year. And in 20 years, going on 20 years, the road in front of my house and adjacent to my house both have started deteriorating, especially over the past, I don't know, 6, 7 years. I thought I did my due diligence by contacting Public Works and would get a sketchy response back from them. They would occasionally send people out to do a patch repair, basically taking just blacktop and dropping it in a hole and then flattening it out, never really securing it to prevent the issue from happening again. Was told 2 years ago that Hartwood and Circlewood was both on the agenda for the needed road repairs was supposed to have been done. They've done Spring Valley. They've done probably 3/4 of the subdivision since I've been there. And there's times I went out after a good winter, and I'm picking up chunks, sizeball chunks of road out of the middle of the road to prevent traffic from running over it. There's quite a few motorcycles that live in that subdivision, and eventually somebody's going to go down and come around that corner. Last time I talked, they said, like I said, it was on the radar. We'd had a very wet spring. I think it was 2016, and they said they weren't able to do anything until late summer of 2016 or early spring 2017. We're now into 2018, and again, nothing is really getting done about it to improve those conditions. And I just would like to bring it before the council today to make note of it, because like I said, if someone does go down or a child on a bike goes down coming around that corner, then it's going to be a pretty horrific accident. So I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming out this evening. I'll take a look at it myself, but I know we've got the city engineer here and also Ed Milliken from Public Works, that we can make sure that we're familiar with what you're talking about. The good news is that we've had several road projects that have come in under budget, and there may be the funds available to go ahead and make these repairs. So we will certainly look at it and evaluate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Anita Meyer?
Thank you for allowing us to speak tonight, and I want to thank Code Enforcement and Animal Control that has been working with us. Our friends and neighbors are here tonight to ask City Council to uphold the leash law regarding the request to amend the law by residents at 3928 Park Place Drive. Their dog has walked without a leash and ventures wherever she pleases, usually in our front, side, and backyards, shrubs, and flower beds, as seen by your handouts. This dog is not a trained service, therapy, or comfort dog. However, I do believe that all of our animals provide us with comfort and are therapeutic. If these residents consider this is a service animal, then according to the ADA, the animal must be harnessed, leashed, or tethered, and carry certification, and owner must maintain control of the animal, as seen as your handouts on page 2. I have personally talked to the ADA, both on a federal and on a state advocate level. As stated on page 1 of the ADA handout, dogs whose sole function is to provide comfort or emotional support do not qualify as service animals under the ADA. Over the Memorial Day weekend, I witnessed the said dog attacking a small poodle-like dog. That particular dog was on a leash on the other side of the street. The dog at 3928 crossed into the street to the other side to get to the dog. The owners did come out to pull their dog away. This was by no means a play situation. On June 24th, early evening, said dog did go after another dog as seen by one of our neighbors. This dog was also leashed. They hurried again after said dog and put a leash on it, but then dropped the leash and the dog was allowed to walk, not controlled by the owner. It dragged on the ground as seen as the handouts. If said dog would have been leashed and controlled, these accidents may not have happened. The mother and daughter who walked this dog appeared to have no physical walking ailments, as you can see in your handouts. They both have driver's license and they both do drive. I believe this is a case of them not wanting to follow the law and leash law, and however, they are able to leash the dog because in the evening hours, they do leash it when they walk it. They have lost total control of this animal. If this dog amendment is granted, this means that the dog can go to parks, including Flagship, which is in our community, and other public places unleashed where there are smaller dogs and children. We're tired of having this dog in our yards for the past 3+ years. Plus, we do not want any harm to befall any smaller animals, as has happened twice. Every other animal in our neighborhood is leashed. With the information provided tonight, we ask that you uphold the leash law. This dog must be controlled. Thank you for your time.
Just a quick, is the podium, is everybody hearing the podium mic okay, or is that just me? Okay. I don't know, for some reason it doesn't sound as loud as usual. Mrs. Sudkamp, did you have something? Don't forget your mic.
Can I ask you a question, sir? May I ask you a question? Is there a reason that your daughter cannot walk the dog on the leash?
Unfortunately, because she is disabled, she feels that that's cruel to the dog to put her on the leash unless it's necessary.
I see,
because
okay.
she is a good dog and she has never attacked any other dogs.
Okay.
And she is registered. I got proof of registration there I gave you folks. And the doctor has even said it's an important thing for her.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay,
it's
so
not that I'm asking-
physically she's able.
What?
Physically she's able.
Oh, yeah, physically she's
But
fine.
mentally she's not.
Disabled.
Okay, thank you.
Mike Chisenhall?
Hi. My name is Mike Chisenhall. I wrote this down tonight, so I would try to remember all this. My name is Mike Chisenhall. I live at 3945 Park Place Drive. I am a neighbor of the residents asking for an amendment to the leash law. I would like to thank the mayor and city council for allowing me to voice my opinion on amending the leash law for the residents at 3928 Park Place. I would like to ask the city council to uphold the leash law for all residents. First, if you change it for one resident, you will have a flood of people that will want to change for them also. There is no solid reason why the residents that are asking for an exemption tonight cannot walk their dog on a leash, except for the simple fact that they just refuse. As neighbors, we have gone to them and asked them nicely if they would keep the dog on a leash when they walk, only to be met with foul language and verbal abuse. One of the reasons that we have asked is that the dog goes wherever it wants to go and they follow. They go into homeowners' front yards, backyards, side yards. The dog gets into mulch beds, shrubs, flowers, and we have had flowers damaged by the dog. The residents do not consider walking up to homeowners' front windows or back windows or across their patio an invasion of privacy. There are no boundaries when this dog is let out of the house. Lately, they have been putting the dog on a leash at times, not always, but they don't hold the leash. The dog simply drags the leash and they follow. This is one of the problems that we face. To put the dog on a leash and then not hold the leash, it simply does no good. They have to maintain control of the dog. Since the city put in sidewalks on Nelson Road, we have people from different neighborhoods walking their dog past our house, and they all have a leash being held by the owner. There are also safety concerns when a dog is allowed to run free. The dog has chased other dogs. How would they stop the dog if it would go after a person? My wife and I were at Flagship Park walking, and a dog owner was on the playground with children, and that dog was not on a leash. A couple walking their dog on a leash came past, and the unleashed dog attacked the other dog. The owner of the leashed dog fell and was injured trying to separate the fighting dogs. My question is, who will be responsible if something bad happens because this dog is not on a leash? Another thing about our neighborhood is that we live in a neighborhood with an HOA, and we are not allowed to have fences. We can't keep this dog out of our yard. The only fences we're allowed to have are invisible fences. So if I want to keep this dog out of my backyard, I can't do it. And as soon as I go out and ask him to get the dog out of the yard, I'm met with verbal abuse because of it.
I'm very sorry, sir. Could you wrap up in about 10 to 15 seconds?
I'm done. Thank you very much for your time.
I'm going to be shown up, I know it.
Michael Meyer.
I have seen people in the audience that are trying to hear. Joe, can you double check that? Are you sure this isn't muted?
Okay. We got everyone's attention, I think. Can you hear me? I'm also here my name is Michael Meyer. I live at 3941 Park Place Drive. My wife Anita was just up a few minutes ago talking. I'm here to reiterate a couple other facts that you folks may know or may not know. The city of Erlanger has a leash law. We have been to Kenton County Animal Control. They also have a leash law. We live in Lakemont Subdivision, which is a homeowner association, as Mike Chisnall referred to. We have a homeowner's policy, which is in our deed restrictions, and we have a leash law in there that we can be enforced. So we talked to Mr. Gatlin, and we went to the Kenton County Animal Control and asked him what's the procedure when we have these issues, and he said if the city can't do anything to resolve it, then you come to us. When you see the animal out, we will come 3 or 4 times. If we see the dog not being restrained, we will at that time pick up the dog and take it. We will work with the owners one time to try to resolve the issue. If we come back or called back again, we will confiscate the dog and then have it adopted. So it's a very serious thing for these folks. 2 years ago, I was president of the Homeowner Association. I fielded calls in Homeowner Association meetings from people complaining about the dog. I did call the gentleman here one night to talk to him about it, and as soon as I mentioned the word dog, he unleashed a rant of vulgarity at me and told me to go see a blank psychiatrist and hung up the phone on me. Then the wife cussed out my wife one day when she was outside getting her mail. The daughter comes onto our property, and so now for me it's not an issue with the dog. Now she's trespassing on our property, and then we will call the Kenton County Police. So it's an issue I think that you folks have to take very seriously, because if it's not resolved here, it will go to Kenton County, and then it will go to our board of directors at our homeowner association, and we will stop it one way or another. In reference to him saying his daughter's handicapped, she has a driver's license, she drives, she is as normal as anybody in this room, except she's got a bad temper. And I don't think that qualifies as a disability, because at times I've had that disability, but that doesn't give me any rights either. So thank you very much.
Are you Anita Meyer's husband?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you a doctor?
Okay, you can go ahead and have a seat, sir. We're not going to get into a debate between you guys now. There are, just to kind of remind, we do have a lot to talk about the leash law. So if you, instead of having to reiterate, which nobody has yet, you can just say you agree with the person before you, or just to kind of speed it up if you'd like, so just so everybody's aware.
Yeah, I agree, but it's an issue that he's bringing to the table, wanting an exclusion. You folks have to stop this thing, and you have to know the severity of it, because if it doesn't stop here, it's going to stop someplace else, but it is going to stop. It has to.
Thank you,
we
sir.
have a right in our community. I don't want anybody trespassing on my property. When that dog pees in my grass, it'll kill more grass than a California wildflower.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Mrs. Pitts, did you have something?
Can I comment on the dog?
Please.
Okay, I'm very familiar with this dog because we walk our dog through Lakemont every day. It doesn't seem like a dog that runs much. I mean, he walks and he comes up and tries to play with our dogs. I've never seen him be mean, but I do understand what they're saying, because sometimes we want to walk by and just get home, and the dog comes and wants to play. Sir, my advice to you is if she's worried about leashes, put him on a retractable leash, because those are longer and he can walk a little bit more and further ahead of her. That works for us, and our dogs can just go everywhere, but you still have control of them. But I certainly understand what these folks are saying, because even we do get annoyed sometimes, because sometimes we're in a rush and we just want to get home, and the dog always wants to play with their dogs, and it kind of just stops us. And with people's yards, and I mean, that's just my opinion from experience with this dog. But to me, it's always been very nice to my dogs. That's all I wanted to say.
Diana Nicely.
Good evening. My name is Diana Nicely. I am not talking about the leash law. I am talking about the issue on Riggs Avenue. I live on Edgar Court. I grew up on Riggs Avenue, have raised my children on Edgar Court. I am not happy with the way our neighborhood along Riggs Avenue has been made ugly by Duke Energy. Their new steel utility poles look like they belong in an industrial park, not a quiet neighborhood. Our property values will probably be negatively impacted, and that is an issue and a concern. Also, Duke has taken down mature trees and vegetation, which has compounded the problem. I wanted to thank Mayor Tyson, Mayor Hermes, and Matt. I informed them of my concerns yesterday, and they were kind and got back with me pretty quickly. And also, I had asked for some comps. I understand Duke Energy has put up some of these utility poles in neighborhoods in Cincinnati. I asked for some areas, and they did send me some pictures. I still am not pleased, though, because they were comparing it to Madeira, which, of course, is a little affluent neighborhood. Where these poles run in Madeira, even though that's Ohio and considered close to us, that neighborhood doesn't look any better than Riggs Avenue either. The comps that they send me to Monroe, I believe the easement ran behind the properties. They did have to take out some sheds and pools, but Monroe is a little different too. Their houses are farther apart. They're not like our neighborhood in Riggs Avenue. I wanted to thank again the mayor and Matt for helping me with that and trying to see what they can do to work with Duke Energy to improve the neighborhood. It looks horrendous. This past weekend, I had friends over, and they absolutely had not been past the area since this has started. And they said it looked like a war zone. It looked awful. I mean, this is a neighborhood, I know it's the older part of Erlanger, where a lot of people don't care, but we grew up there. I've raised my family there, right around the corner where I grew up. So it is important to me and the citizens on this side of Erlanger, and I'm just asking the council if they can try to work with Duke, if not the city, try to make Riggs Avenue in the area look better. Thank you.
Lindy Smith.
Good evening. I'm Linda Smith. I'm the current president of the Homeowners Association at Lakemont, and I support what the residents of Lakemont have presented to you in terms of the importance of our leash regulations at Lakemont. Specifically, pets must be kept within the confines of their lot unless on a handheld leash. Because of the sidewalks and the new sidewalks put in, we have a lot of dogs walking through Lakemont. And I've never seen any except on a leash. And I have seen this particular dog roaming the neighborhood because it's off leash. And that does create problems because dogs get defensive if another dog enters their own property. So I would very much support what our residents have said. It's important that the policies of the Lakemont Homeowners Association are followed, and that the council supports our current leash requirements, which are followed by the residents of Lakemont. Thank you very much.
Russ Landers.
My name's Russ Landers. I currently live on Edgar Court. I also have a property on Riggs Avenue, and I just want to state that I agree with Diana Nicely. She's actually one of my neighbors. Putting up those metal poles aren't really the prettiest things in the world. Hopefully something can be done. I don't know what. I'm not an engineer, so thank you.
Ben Duncan.
My name is Ben Duncan. I reside at 3936 Park Place Drive. I concur with what my neighbors have previously stated, but I've had some experiences also. As recently as last week, I left my house walking down the driveway. I live 2 doors from the Schmelzers. The dog was not leashed, and it came across my neighbor's yard growling, and fortunately it stopped about 30 feet in front of me. I've had problems with his daughter in the past. Sitting on my deck, she's walking the dog through the backyard without a leash. I asked her to leave, and she used very vulgar language on me. On another occasion, the dog was in the front flower bed. I asked her to leave. She looked at me and glared, and with a flower pot in the front flower bed, she ripped all the plants out and threw them. I called Mr. Schmelzer, and his response was, well, I can't do anything about it. That's all. Thank you.
We will now move on to the mayor's report.
Let me say a couple things if I can. Just to kind of give some closure to what's going on here. There is a citation pending with the Schmelzers that we agreed, and the codes office agreed to hold until after this meeting, because they said they wanted to speak, and it just seemed more appropriate to do that. So there is still a citation pending out there. I guess moving forward, if there's any council members that are interested in looking at the ordinance that would want to either make a motion or put it onto the committee agenda for this month would be, I guess, the next step if anybody is interested in doing that. Okay, I just wanted to follow up with that. I'll have our codes officer follow up with Schweitzer family to let them know that the citation is active again. Thank you.
Now moving on to the mayor's report.
All right, I'll be brief. The one thing I just wanted to make sure that the other council members were aware of, and I don't know if you'd received this as well, but I received a letter from the Northern Kentucky Baptist Church. They are at 2681 Turkey Foot Road. And on August 5th, Sunday, August 5th, they are having a God and Country service, and they are inviting all of us to attend. They'd like to recognize and honor all politicians and community leaders at the 10:50 a.m. service that day. So again, that's Northern Kentucky Baptist Church, 2681 Turkey Foot Road, August 5th at the 10:50 a.m. Mass. Yeah, second.
You beat me to the punch. I was going to do that under new business. I think it would be absolutely awesome if we would all go, all of us, together. I think that would be incredible. And I've been before, and it is very emotional. It's a beautiful service.
I think that would be great
So
if we could all
why don't you take a poll to see who'd be willing to go, and then we can call and RSVP.
Okay.
I'll go.
Show of hands. People interested, have their schedules free? And we are missing.
Can you throw the date out again and everybody?
Yeah, it's August 5th at the 10:50 a.m. service. The Northern Kentucky Baptist Church, 2681 Turkey Foot Road. are you taking account? Okay. So I see 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Is that a hand up, Mr. Viox? And then we've also got Vicky and Kevin. They may be as well. So 8 to 10 people. Yeah. Okay. Maybe we can do that via email. Do you want to be the RSVP? Okay. Thank you so much, Mrs. Sutkamp. That's all I had. Thank you.
We will now move to reports of the committees. Are there any reports from the Police Committee?
The police department hosted a thank you luncheon for the dispatchers on June the 14th. I'd like to report Matt went to visit and said that everybody is doing well and the transition is going very smoothly so far, which is great news for everybody. The police participated in Touch Truck on June the 7th. Doug Eagler has been reassigned as the new training officer upon the resignation of Greg Egler. We have completed the merger with Kenton County Dispatch. They've concluded their police services for Crescent Springs. All officers attended and successfully completed the summer rifle range qualifications. Members of the newly adopted ECAT team began training in the Northern Kentucky Drug Strike Force, and they'll be on their own on July the 1st. An accident reconstruction team worked 2 separate fatality collisions on Bromley Crescent Springs Road this month. And Patty Sanchez graduated from DOCJT Telecommunications Academy, and Sergeant Ashley graduated from the Academy of Police Supervision, which is a big deal. I also wanted to mention, and I'm sorry, just give me 1 second. The police department lost a very, very dear friend from Erlanger resident Monty Rovecamp. He always invited the police officers to go to the Cincinnati Club meeting once a month, which was really great. And Officer O'Hara reports that it wound up being Monty's last meeting as he died very unexpectedly on June the 24th. He was a very strong supporter of law enforcement throughout the greater Cincinnati area and will be greatly missed. So our love and prayers go out to his family. And Chief's in the house.
Chief Brendel, do you have anything further to report? Are there any reports from Fire and EMS Committee?
We just want to quickly give a shout out to Mark Guttridge, Greg Holian, and Connor East for graduating the Cincinnati Fire Department Paramedic Program. Great job, guys. And on July 17th, it's Hometown Heroes Night at the Florence Freedom, and the game is going to be honoring military, fire and EMS, and the police. Corrine, do you have anything to add? And Chief?
Are there any reports from the Public Works Committee?
Yes. I would like to announce one of our Public Works members, Bob Martin. He just celebrated 6 years. Ralph Snyder, he just celebrated 17 years with the city. He does the video if anybody wants to say hi to him. And Al Newman's got a birthday coming up, the 30th of July.
So we'd also like to discuss that we have a municipal order tonight on the agenda. Information's been sent out to the council about the Public Works Director position. At that time, we'll be asking for a motion tonight for the appointment of Peter Glenn to the position of the Director of Public Works. And Mr. Milliken is here.
Assistant Director Milliken, do you have anything further to report? Are there any reports from the Administration Committee?
Yes, ma'am.
I
I would like to report, there's a couple of things that I don't know that everybody is aware of, but every Tuesday and Thursday at the Depot Park, there are programs that are put on by the Erlanger-Ellesmere School District. And this Thursday, from 10:30 until noon, I believe I read where the kids get to milk a cow. That's what I read, I'm sorry. And then there's also going to be the Cincinnati Circus is going to be at the Depot Park on Thursday from 6 to 8. These events have been well attended. They had the petting zoo last Thursday, and I know Joe's not here right now, but I forget how many people. Oh, Sherry, you've changed. I'm so sorry. How many did we have at the petting zoo?
Close to 600.
Yeah, it was pretty packed. And now that I've stuck my foot in my mouth, I'll go ahead and, it doesn't taste very well either. I'd like to make a motion to have the first reading of the codification ordinance to include ordinance numbers 2455 through 2463. And that was a direct order from the real Sherry. End of report.
Communications and PR Manager, Mr. Christofield, do you have anything further to report?
No, I do not.
Are there any reports from the Finance and Business Development Committee?
Yes, we do have a report. On June 30, the fiscal year 2018 books were successfully closed and rolled over to fiscal year 2019. The finance staff is now in the process of completing the closing process for fiscal year 2018 and preparing the records for the annual audit. That's all I have, Mr. Montgomery.
Finance Director, Mr. Bod, and Economic Developer Director, Mr. Hahn, do you have anything further to report? Are there any reports from the Codes, Building, and Zoning Committee?
Just to mention that I did send out our monthly activity report from the codes, and if anyone has any questions for that, that's. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question, might not be related to the information you sent out, but the 2 houses that we gave over to Habitat on Cowie, 3410, 3409,
Yes.
What's the status there?
They just, about last week, they submitted their application for permit to raise the buildings, to take the buildings down. So they're moving there. They've had an issue with something with Duke getting the service lines abandoned is one of the problems they're having. So, but they are coming down. They've applied for the permits. As soon as they get all those approvals, they've got their contractor lined up, ready to come in and take them both down.
Director, Mr. Hahn, do you have anything further to report? You have heard the reports for our committees. Do I entertain a motion that they be adopted as presented? Mr. Cahill? Second by Patty.
It was just easier. I didn't say and Patty. So.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Are there any reports from our representatives this evening?
Tuesday, right? So
There was no Kenton County Alliance meeting in July, so you guys got off easy.
Moving on to reports of city operations. Mr. Viox, do you have anything to report?
Yes, ma'am. If you recall at our committee meeting, we discussed the extension of the sidewalk restoration program with monies that became available from our surplus from our first 3 capital improvement program projects we took bids on a month ago. Public Works Director and I are recommending that we add $50,000 to our sidewalk rehabilitation program for this year. And based on that, if you would do approve that under old business this evening, that will allow us to have $200,000 in this current budget, and we still have a carryover from previous year, last year, so we will have sufficient monies to extend in. We've completed basically phase 1. We're working on phase 2, and hopefully we'll be able to extend into phase 3 before the end of the year. I also pointed out at that meeting that we wanted to extend the current contractor's contract, which is JPS Construction, because of the favorable rate we have from them, and also the fact that they've done quality work and been progressing through the city. So when you get the old business part, I would like for you to move that we add the $50,000 to the 2018-19 sidewalk rehabilitation funds, and that we extend the contract to JPS into this year. Thank you.
Mr. Gatlin, do you have anything to report?
And just a few things. Thank you. You did an awesome job, by the way. Awesome job. You need to show up every time we have citizens comment section. All right. A few things. I just want to go through some of the items that are on the agenda. The codification of the ordinances is a bit of a housekeeping matter that just puts into the Code of Ordinances the last section of ordinances. I will let Mr. Kramer discuss the pay wage scale and the policy changes. We've already discussed the Director of the Public Works appointment. The final resolution, Resolution 6, discusses us entering as a co-plaintiff in the Covington pension lawsuit. If anyone followed the media last week, I wouldn't say that issue has mooted itself, but the lower court basically declared that unconstitutional. There was some maneuvering with the governor's office. It's still very fluid. I would just like to table that, or to at least take that off the agenda. We could maybe bring it back in September, but right now there's nothing that would be needed for the city or the Kentucky League of Cities. Everyone's a little bit waiting to see what the appellate courts are going to do with this. So we kind of lost our opportunity to intervene in that lawsuit. So we won't be voting on that tonight. That's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Wickman, do you have anything to report? Oh, yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes. I have it. Thank you.
Now, Mr. Wickman, do you have anything to report?
I have nothing to report.
Mr. Kramer, do you have anything to report?
I do, ma'am. Thank you. Touching back on the school zone, I did talk to the District 6 branch manager today, James McChinley. He did inform me that they completed their study here locally. It was sent to Frankfurt for approval. He said that there's no guarantee that it's going to be approved, but they were interested enough and asked for it to be sent down. If it is approved, he said they would have it all installed before school starts or just after. So I'm assuming that means it's going to be a quick turnaround of either a yes or a no. If it is not granted by the state, then we'll have to move forward to see if we can do it as a city. But just from talking to him briefly, it seems like there's a pretty good chance that it will be approved. He said they saw reason for it. So that's a good thing. We'll keep you up to date. Hopefully by next month, we'll have a definite on that. As Ms. Camp said, dispatch did shut down on the 27th of last month. I did visit Kenton County Dispatch. Dispatcher said that the initial first couple of days went well. Police and fire will tell you differently, but at least on their end, it was smooth, which was good. Cherry Hill subdivision, I'm not sure if everybody remembers, I did send an email out about that. We agreed to go in with Boone County to do a feasibility study next to the swim club. The feasibility study came back unfavorable. It was going to be about $500,000, $600,000 just to prep the property. That's not including putting the park equipment on it. So I told them we would not be interested unless anybody disagrees with that. I did send that out. It's a pretty thorough study, but I don't see there's any reason for us to spend tax dollars on that piece of property there. They are looking at possibly some property around there if any of the houses go for sale in the future, which might be cheaper. So I'll fill you in if that does change in the future. The two ordinance changes that were sent out, I don't have them in front of me. The pay wage scale, the only change there was due to the COLA, 2.1% COLA. So all the minimums were raised by 2.1. That's why we're voting on that today. The other is HR Director McCallie and I have been working through all the ordinances, all of our policies. We did update, I believe the only one we updated was the vacation policy. There were just talking to the employees, there were some discrepancies on what things meant, so we tried to clean it up and make it a little bit more clear. So that was the gist of those changes, unless anybody else had any questions for that. I believe that's all I have.
You have heard the reports of our representatives in city operations. Do I entertain a motion that they be adopted as presented? Yes.
Jim, when you were talking about the phases of the sidewalk restoration, phase 1, 2, and 3, is there a list people can see? Because we always get questions on what's next, what's next. Is there a list?
Yes, there is a zone map, and Mr.
Han?
No, Milligan.
Okay. All right, well, I figured it was one of them.
I was going to say Mr. Ed. Mr. Milligan does have a zone map, and we did discuss that, and we think that based on those zones, the zone that started at the Florence city limits basically on this side of the highway came down to Commonwealth. Then it went from Commonwealth to the other side of the city on this side of Dixie Highway. Then it jumps, Ed, you can correct me if it's wrong. Then it jumps across the highway and goes from the highway, Dixie Highway to Turkey Foot, and then it goes beyond Turkey Foot for Zone 4.
Okay.
And we, in our discussions, if you recall, there's very few sidewalks after you cross Dixie Highway till you get to Concord. The Fairwood Hills area and the area from Dixie Highway down to Concord, there's very few sidewalks, and the only ones that are really there are the ones that were built by the city under grants because the movement of pedestrians or children to the schools. But then we're going to jump into the area back in Lexington Estates, and then we'll go, of course, obviously Woodland Hills, but we're picking up those when we're doing the street projects, most of them. So that'll pretty much move us in Jacqueline Drive. That'll move us in across Turkey Foot Road. We really think that there's going to be enough money in the leftover money from last year and what we just added to probably move us in that direction.
Okay, thank you.
You have heard the reports by representatives in city operations. Do I entertain a motion that they be adopted as presented? Motion by Patty and second by Ms. Spitz. We now move on. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. We will now move on to correspondence. Mr. Christofield, do you have any correspondence this evening?
No, I do not.
Are there any other correspondences to be read? Okay. We will now move on to bids. Are there any bids to read?
No bids from my department.
Okay. Moving on to old business. Boy Scouts of America Social Worker Explorer Post.
The PD and I are going to discuss this a little bit more in depth. We did have some preliminary discussions. It's not something that we're definitely going to do within the next 6 months, but we will talk about this a little bit more and try to give a game plan and keep Ms. Fetty in the loop on
Big Shots.
Just progress at this point. After we had our meeting, I contacted them and let them know of council's feeling that they were still in favor of the project. So they have contacted their bond counsel, Mr. Peterman. So they are working with that. They're going to put something together and let us view it and see which direction we care to head.
Special Response Team.
We'll have a, is it a resolution or ordinance for that? Yeah. Okay, we'll have a resolution later on to vote for that.
Continued sidewalk repairs.
Sidewalk repair.
Excuse me, could you please turn your mic on?
Oh, boy. I'll start over. We do need action from council to authorize the movement of $50,000 from the surplus from the 3 projects we already bid into the sidewalk restoration monies, and also to approve the movement, to approve the extension of the current sidewalk contract by JPS into this year.
Mr. Cahill, did you wish to make a movement?
Motion, please.
I didn't have a question. I'm all in favor of this, but you guys really need to realize what Mr. Viox has accomplished here. He has accomplished the impossible. I mean, not only do you ever come in under bid, hardly ever, but to have $300,000 to play with and then to continue with this program for a mere $50,000. I mean, I didn't think we'd be in phase 4 for 5 years, you know, so kudos to you, sir.
So we have a motion and a second. We have a motion by Mr. Cahill and a second by Mrs. Sedkamp. Any discussion? Any other further discussion?
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Motion passed.
Thank you.
And then committees.
Mr. Mayor, did you want to talk about committees anymore?
No, I think what we discussed in the last committee meeting, we discussed several different ideas. I think the one thing that we came to the agreement on was that moving forward, the committee meetings will be the same time as the council meetings, and that would be 7 o'clock. Just to keep some consistency between all the meetings of the city. Some of the other ideas that had gotten kicked around, yeah, I think we'll discuss more as time goes. There's nothing pressing there. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, why don't you come up? You were going to submit something to us, weren't you, Mrs. Dietz? Ms. Dietz?
I wanted to speak with Ms. Mayor. Yes, I talked about submitting the document to all of you, and I have apologies to you for not getting that to you yet. I'll have that to you by Monday in your email with my suggestions for committees. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dietz.
Does anyone have any other old business to discuss? Okay, moving on to new business. Does anyone have any new business to discuss? Yes.
So a few weeks ago, I met with Joe, Jen, and Sherry, and we started working on a welcome pack for new residents that move into the city of Erlanger. It's in the infancy stage. We kind of just brainstormed for ideas and what we wanted to include, but not to make it too big. So we'll have another meeting in a few weeks, and our goal is to launch it in January. So that's all.
Yes. Patty.
In response to that, I had an interesting experience. We had a new family move in on Bartlett, and I happened to meet them as they were walking their little boy. And I don't know really how to address this. I don't know how we know when we've got a new family that comes in. That's going to be our biggest. Yeah, well, but they don't know what our rules and regulations are. So my suggestion would be, I'll tell you what happened. The very second day that they were in the house, the dad fell, and the wife was at work, and everybody else was gone, and he laid in the front yard for 3 hours, and he was afraid to call 911 because they were new to the city. He didn't know if his insurance would cover it, and money was an issue. So, you know, I've since then taken the time to try and explain to him how, you know, you will be billed, but it's a soft billing if you live in the city, da-da-da, and whatever. But those are the kind of things that I think our citizens really need to know, crack off the bat, you know, health things, you know, or whatever.
We don't do soft billing anymore, do we? Or I didn't think so. Right. They won't see the bill. Okay. Yeah, we were, one of my main goals with this welcome packet is so many people don't know a lot of stuff about Erlanger and what all we have to offer. And so we were going to actually have little segments from each department and put important facts in there, also put, you know, our website and different ways to, just we're trying to get it to where there's information there for them. And Jen said every month she gets a list of new residents that move in, so we could like send out welcome packs like once a month, like after she receives that list to homeowners. So.
I'm sorry, is that just homeowners, or is that people that are living in an apartment?
We discussed that, and at least right now it's homeowners. She said the apartment, it's so hard to keep track of that I don't know if she'd be able to do that. So for right now, it would just be homeowners, unless there's an easier way to do it at a later point.
That's a good idea, people that comes in. What about renters?
That's what we just discussed, that there's no way right now that they've found a good way to identify which ones are renters. So that's something that Ms. Pitts is going to work on.
But would renters qualify for housing?
If we can identify them, I believe that's what Ms. Pitts wants to do. But right now it's difficult because there's no tracking when new tenants are in there. But that's what they're going to work on, see if they can fix that.
Isn't that going to be sort of hard to do because a lot of renters don't stay too long?
Right, that's what we were just saying.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the best, if we want the renters to get the packet, maybe the point would be to get the word across to the property owner so that they can convey that to the renters, and maybe there's a registry or an application or something here at the city building that they can let us know that they're new, and we can give them a packet here or have a packet here at the city building for them to pick up.
Well, if you give me the packets, I could give it to new ones. They wouldn't have to come to city building.
I mean, that could be an option. I mean, because we'll have packets here, so if there's people that own property that want to give them to their new, that's no problem for the owners to pick those up.
Is there any more new business? Yes.
I just wanted to say thank you to everybody that participated in the Erlanger Business Council introductory meeting. It was last Tuesday at 9 o'clock. We had almost 50 businesses represented. We packed council chambers, and it was a very good showing from all of our businesses. Our next meeting, we were originally going to start it very slow and just do the next meeting and have just once a quarter. The interest was so large from the businesses that were represented, they want a meeting every month. So our next meeting is scheduled for July 31st at 8:30 a.m. So that'll be the second meeting of the Erlanger Business Council. If you have any additional questions, please let me know. Joe put up on the City of Erlanger Facebook page the invitation. There's an RSVP. Please use that. Thank you.
I just want to say I'm so glad to see this. This is not a new idea, but it's a revitalized idea. We had a business council many, many years ago, and it went over very, very well, but then little by little the interest died. So I give you all a lot of credit for bringing it back, and I hope it's very successful.
Is there any other new business? Yes.
Just to add what Patty said, I think it'll be more successful now because now there's social media and there's so much easier ways for people to keep contact. So it might succeed better now because of that.
Any other new business? Okay, moving on to legislation. We have codified ordinances, pay wage scale, and policy changes. Okay.
First ordinance we have tonight is a first reading on the codified ordinances. This is an ordinance of the City of Erlanger in Kenton County, Kentucky, approving and adopting a supplement to the Code of Ordinances of the city. In summary, this is a housekeeping issue. This supplements through Ordinance 2463, and the codification is required pursuant to KRS 83A060. This is a first reading. So if we could just note that as a first reading. All right, thank you. All right, second is the pay wage scale ordinance. This is an ordinance of the City of Erlanger in Kenton County, Kentucky, amending the personnel pay plan for all Erlanger employees and non-elected city officers. Pursuant to KRS 83A070, the city is required to fix the compensation of city employees and non-elected city officials. You can see here the the struck-through sections are the ones that have been amended. The underline is what it has been amended to. And as Mr. Kramer indicated, it is based on the cost of living adjustment. If we could note that in the record. Thank you. All right, next we have the municipal order that discusses the policy changes that Mr. Kramer discussed. This is a municipal order of the City of Erlanger in Kenton County, Kentucky, describing the essential functions, qualifications, duties, and other characteristics of the positions of employment established by ordinances of the city, and amending the personnel policies of the city in regard to them. As Mr. Kramer indicated, we are amending the COE 6.1, which is the vacation benefits. It is attached. The underlined section is what has been added. It is adding both the section which is clarifying service lines as well as adding the section of permitting an opportunity for the city administrator and mayor in laterals hires to tweak those guidelines to be more successful in getting lateral hires. That does require a vote.
Do I entertain a motion to adopt this municipal order as read? First by Patty, second by Ms. Fetty. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
All right, next, I'm sorry. Apologize, I have so much paper up here, I've gotten confused here. All right, next is the Director of Public Works appointment. helpful if I had it in front of me. Here we go. This is a municipal order of the City of Erlanger in Kenton County, Kentucky, approving the mayor's appointment of Peter Glenn as the Director of Public Works pursuant to KRS 83A-080, subsection 3, effective July 14th, 2018. By summary, a committee did interview several candidates. I don't want to speak on behalf of the committee. I think Mr. Cahill has spoken on behalf of the committee, but I will speak that it was a unanimous decision. If there does want to be any discussion on this, we would need to move. We can do it in the public forum, or if any council members had any specific questions that they would be more comfortable, we could go into executive session. But if there is no other questions or anyone that wants to go into executive session, we would entertain a motion to approve this municipal order.
Mr. Montgomery?
You had a question?
Mr. Montgomery made a motion to approve, second by Mr. Cahill. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
All right, next is a municipal order of the City of Erlanger in Kenton County, Kentucky, making the written determinations required by KRS 82083 for the sale or other disposition of property owned by the city. Attached to this document is the item which is being disposed of, which is a 1996 aerial ladder truck. The reason for disposal is age and condition, and the disposal method is that it's being transferred with compensation to another governmental agency. We do need a motion.
Do I entertain a motion to adopt this municipal order as read? Yes. Do I have a second?
Motion by Mrs. Pitts, second by Mrs. Sedkamp.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried.
All right, I'm sorry. Next is a resolution as it relates to the City of Erlanger entering the Kenton County Regional Special Weapons and Tactics. This resolution and the attached amendment to the interlocal agreement is attached, and this is what, as the chief indicated at the committee meeting, this resolution allows the City of Erlanger to enter in with the Kenton County Sheriff, the cities of Edgewood, Ellesmere, Fort Mitchell, Fort Thomas, Fort Wright, Independence, Ludlow, Taylor Mill, and Villa Hills, all into their the Kenton County Special Weapons and Tactics Organization. This does require a motion.
Motion by Ms. Sudkamp, second by Ms. Pitts. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. All right. Do I entertain a motion to adjourn?
Wait a second.
Oh,
okay,
sorry.
The part that I read about making the motion for the first reading of a codification ordinance to include 2455 to 2463, was that included when you did this codified ordinance thing up here?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
We did it.
Okay. Just
We're
wanted to
good.
make sure.
Thank
Didn't
you
want-
for keeping us on our toes. We're good. It is, I tell you, no offense, but without Sherry here, it's a little scarier, isn't it? I mean.
You did a great job, Joe.
No offense. We're good.
And before we adjourn, I guess I would like to say also that I feel that Miss Trunnell did a phenomenal job this evening. That wasn't even an easy council meeting. We had, comments from the public and some other complications, so you handled it fabulously. Thank you.
Was there a motion in a second to adjourn? I'm not sure there was.
Okay. Do I motion to adjourn? Motion by Ms. Sudkamp.
Sure.
Ms. Pitts.
Second by
Second by,
Ms. Sudkamp.
okay. Second by Mr. Blankenship. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Hit the gavel. All right.